What's up, you guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. I'm your host, Kendall. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the podcast. I hope that over the course of this episode, you hear a couple of different nuggets that make you go, I want to know more about this chick. I want to hear more about what she has to say. I want to learn more about my fitness and nutrition and my mindset. And that inspires you to go back, listen to past episodes, which there have been over 530 previous episodes, and to come back each week for more future episodes. I put a new full-length episode out every single Wednesday on all on all podcast platforms. Speaking is very hard today. And then I put out a shorter podcast every Friday called our Friday Fit Quickie, where I might answer just a couple of questions, but I try to keep it 20 minutes or under, generally between 10 to 15 minutes, because I know you guys are busy. You want to go on and live life, but I do live for these little chit chats with you guys as if we were sitting down for coffee, just talking about the things that matter most to us, whether that particular day is news, fitness, nutrition, or just life events in general. Now, the past few weeks, I've introduced a new series for my Wednesday episodes, and I'm really enjoying that. We're going to keep that going for a little bit, where I bring to you interesting news tidbits, and then I give my perspective on it as well. Last week, we talked about the fat burning zone. What is it? What do you need to do? Is it real? What do you need to know about it? So go back, listen to that episode. And then the week before, we actually talked about Weight Watchers and how they are actually getting into pharmaceuticals now, and they're going to be prescribing Ozempic. So that was a really interesting podcast, and I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on both of those. So go back and check them out. As far as today's podcast, I do have some exciting news for you guys. We are also going to do a workout of the day, and then we're going to talk about DNA dieting. What are the genes that are linked to the foods that you eat and how your body processes certain foods? So I think that this is really interesting. It's still definitely a new area of science with a lot of stuff that we still have to learn, but I am going to read some of the news article that I read. We're going to talk about it, and then I'm going to also present some other information that I found just from doing a little study, a little researchy. So let's jump into it. Let's jump into it, you guys. All right, so first off, some big news. For the past several months, not several weeks, several months, we've been on a secret project, so to speak, where morning, afternoon, and night, my husband has been going crazy to rebuild the Fit Women's Weekly website. So I'm so excited to finally be able to announce that and to be able to announce that the new site is launched, it is completed, and it looks so good. I don't talk about Dan very often. I do bring this up every couple of weeks, maybe every couple of months, because I think that it's so easy for people to see me as the front of our business. I'm the one creating the programs. I'm the one filming. You see my face, you hear me talk, but this is a two-person team. So my husband does work a full-time job. It's a great job. We love it, but he helps me out a lot with this, but he is the behind-the-scenes person. Dan is a graphic designer, he is a web developer, he is a website designer, and he builds all of the techie stuff that comes for Fit Women's Weekly. All the graphics that you guys see, he does that. I do all the video editing. Obviously, I'm the person out in front of the camera, but he is hard working, y'all. He's actually in the middle also of building our brand new app that should hopefully be launched by the end of the year. This has been a work in progress for about 2 years now, but building an app is really hard. And he had to stop the process because there are a couple of different tweaks we wanted to make to our actual website. And instead of just making those tweaks, he is an all or none person. There are some things that he wasn't happy about. So he just decided to redesign it and rebuild it from the ground up. So definitely go head over there, fitwomensweekly.com. Let me know what you think. It is much easier to navigate. The way that it was laid out before was a great site, but it was also when we had changed over from running our studio to going online, which was during 2020. And there were just some pieces that weren't quite finished yet. It was a lot of stuff of like, get on the wait list for this, get on the wait list for that. Click here to learn more information when it becomes available. Well, there are no more holes in it. The website is complete and all of the programs are now there for you guys to check out. Very, very easy. And with that being said, a couple of new programs and options that are available for people to work with me so that we don't just have to communicate behind the camera or through this microphone. You guys can be a part of the Fit Women's Weekly family in different ways. So of course there's Fit Women's Weekly Live, which you can try out 14 days free, which is my premier online training studio where every day I go live. I go live with 2 workouts, a 60-minute version and a 30-minute version. And depending on the day of the week dictates the type of the workout, whether it is interval Monday, weightlifting Tuesday, upper body Wednesday, legs Thursday, or kettlebell Friday, and stretch Saturday. Then on top of that, we now also have our habit program launched. These are pre-made programs. Each program has at least 20 workouts, and it's built on the idea of my micro HIIT training system, where it's designed for busy people. If you have a hard time staying consistent with your workouts, then habit is most likely for you, because 1 round through a workout is just 10 minutes. But if you have time, then you can do 2 rounds for 20-minute workouts. And if you want a full workout training experience, go for 3 rounds or a 30 to 40-minute training experience. And I do have a program called Ignite for complete beginners. I have Body Burn, which is a dumbbell program. And then I even have one called Strong for kettlebells. And Double Trouble, which is my most advanced training program as part of Habit, is a double kettlebell program. So there are different options. Ignite is mostly body weight, maybe some bands used here and there. Body Burn is for all fitness levels, as long as you have a set of dumbbells. And then the kettlebell options are obviously a little bit more intense, more advanced. But I will say this, with Kettlebell Strong, it also includes for free my kettlebell clinic. So you're gonna get a full breakdown of all the basic exercises of hip hinging, kettlebell swings, deadlifts, how to hold a kettlebell and rack, how to clean, how to press, how to snatch. So that's also part of it. So if you have the basics down, but you're still a little iffy on some of your form, then Strong would be perfect. And that is all, like an awesome program of itself. And those programs are only $47. And once you get them, they are yours for free. So definitely check out one of those. And then the other part of Fit Women's Weekly that is now launched is my Plan Smart Eat Real live program. I have been doing Plan Smart Eat Real for years, especially when I had my studio. I would do small group training for women of 10 ladies or less, where we would meet each week. I would give a new meal plan. I would help them with their nutrition. I would help give accountability. I would answer questions. So it wasn't just, here is your program, go have fun with it. I wanted to teach a program where I actually taught ladies to take control of their nutrition so that once the program was over, they've learned healthy habits that they can adapt and adopt for a lifetime, versus this being a new yo-yo program, which happens so often where you're really good for 8 weeks and then you get back into your old habits. I wanted to help create new habits, and that's what Plan Smart Eat Real is all about. So it's 8 weeks of meal planning. I've created a brand new recipe book just for this, which I will be revealing soon. And then on top of that, it is 8 live coaching calls every single week. You get contact with me and access to me daily for all 8 weeks. You have access to a private training group where you can talk to the other members, share your success, share your food diaries. We're also gonna learn how to track macros appropriately. If you don't wanna track, that's okay. I can still help you adopt healthy habits that will help you change the way that you're living life and the way that your body feels without. But if you do want to change body composition, then macros is definitely the way that I go about that. And I'm going to lead you through it step by step for all 8 weeks. And this is a great option for people who need nutritional accountability. If you're like, I have my workouts done, I am moving throughout the day, my stress levels are down, I am sleeping, but I cannot get control of my nutrition, and I don't have the money to pay for a one-on-one nutrition coach right now. I get it. So Plan Smart Eat Real, it's gonna start on September 25th. Registration is open right now. Spots are extremely limited, and you can get on the early bird list where it's only gonna cost $127 for all 8 weeks. That's huge. Otherwise, it's still a great deal of only $187, which you can also sign up for as you get closer to that. But like I said, spots are limited. And with part of that, to get on the early bird list, I'm giving away a free macro and meal planning cheat sheet guide, also found on the new website. It's right up front, where you can get the 1, 2, 3 steps for getting started with My Fitness Pal, as well as a full 1 week meal plan from Plan Smart Eat Real. So we're gonna have 3 breakfasts, 3 lunches, 5 dinners, and then I'm gonna give a bonus of 5 different recipe ideas. So go check that out, you guys. That's all on the new site, How freaking cool is that? And I know this is a lot of chit chat about stuff going on, but that is exciting stuff. So go check out fitwomansweekly.com, go look into Plan Smart Eat Real, go check out Habit, go check out FWW Live, whatever works for you, and become part of our Fit Women's Weekly family in one way or another. And if you have questions, of course, reach out to me. All right, so I'll pause real quick while you go there and go ahead and pull it up so that you don't forget. Just kidding. All right, and then the last thing before we jump into this article is our workout of the day. Now this one is only a 10-minute workout. It was part of a bigger workout from yesterday's live program, but it was 1 minute on, 1 minute off for 5 rounds. You're gonna grab a single dumbbell, a good heavy weight. I used a 40-pounder for this, and you're gonna start off with 5 squat thrusters on one side. Then you're gonna go into 5 overhead prisoner squats. If you can't do overhead, bring it back into a rack position. And then for whatever is left of that minute, you're gonna knock out as many standing overhead push presses as you can. Once you're finished, rest for a full minute, and then you're gonna do the other side. So obviously, because it's 5 rounds and you have 2 sides, you're gonna do one side for 3 rounds, one side for 2 rounds, and that's on purpose. So I want you to start with your weaker side so that your weaker side, your unbalanced side, gets tested through this workout 3 times while your stronger side gets tested 2 times. If you decide to give this a go, let me know. It is a burner. It was way harder than I expected, especially those overhead prisoner squats. I have not done those in a hot minute, and so I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. You know, I'm fine. I've done these before. Yeah. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. But it was a good one. So if you give it a shot, definitely fill me in. Let me know how it goes. All right, so let me go ahead and open up this article, and the title is DNA Diet Discovery Paves the Way for Personalized Weight Loss Menu. This was in the New York Post, and then I also found a DNA-based diet found in the National Library of Medicine. So a little bit more reliable of a source. So first, let's do this main one. And this is a more recent research article found. The discovery of hundreds of genes that directly influence what we choose to eat paves the way for personalized healthy diet plans, say scientists. They believe that new insights into genetic basis for food preferences could help improve nutrition for an individual basis. In one of the first large-scale studies of genes related to diet, research uncovered almost 500 genes that appear to directly influence the foods that we eat. So what I want to preface this with and why I find this so interesting is because in the past and in the another research article that I found, we've already found genes related to how we how we break down, how we metabolize different types of foods. So some people have a gene that breaks down caffeine really easily, some people don't. Some people can break down sugar really easily. Some people have a mutation in their genes that makes sugar metabolism really, really hard. So we already have proteins and enzymes that are genetically linked for that. What this research is saying is that there are actually genes linked to the foods that we choose to eat, the foods that we like to eat, which I thought was interesting because you always hear people saying, when I have children, I'm going to feed them all the variety of foods that I can because I don't want them to be a picky eater. But what this is saying is sometimes we are just more genetically inclined to like food versus not liking food, right? So it doesn't matter sometimes how much we show our kids different foods and different textures. Sometimes they're just not gonna like it. Continuing on. They say that their findings represent an important step towards using a person's genetics to develop precision nutrition strategies that help improve health or prevent disease. Research team leader Dr. Joanne Cole said some genes we identified are related to sensory pathways, including those for taste, smell, and texture, and may also increase the reward response in our brain, which totally makes sense. We already know that food is related to serotonin and dopamine release, right? You eat a food and you get that dopamine pickup, like, oh my God, that was so good, right? Unfortunately, it just doesn't stay around. And as far as textures, that's really interesting to me that there are genes related to that because you hear people say, like, I can't eat that, it tastes good, but it's a textural thing. For me growing up, I remember people saying, like in school, you either liked tapioca pudding or you didn't, right? I don't even know, is tapioca pudding still even a thing these days? I personally love tapioca pudding. I don't have a texture issue, but I do know of a lot of people that do. I know someone that I follow on TikTok, Katie Van Slyke. You guys follow Katie? She's all into horses. I freaking love her. But she always claims that she is the pickiest eater because of a texture. She doesn't like creamy, she doesn't like mushy, and I just find that super interesting. So, yeah. All right, because some of these genes may have clear paths towards influencing whether someone likes a food or not, they could potentially be used to create sensory genetic profiles for fine-tuning a person's dietary recommendations based on the food that they like to eat. Now, what I love about this is in the past, we've always looked at diet for weight loss just based on trying to eat less, right? It's never defined as what are the foods that you actually like to eat that we could then modify in their amount that you're getting, right, in the serving size to create a diet that's specifically for you. Because one of the biggest issues people face when they are trying to go into a calorie deficit is they're miserable because the foods that they eat aren't getting that sensory response of their brain going, oh my gosh, this is so satisfying. They end up miserable because they don't like the quote unquote diet food that they're having to eat. And then they feel deprived and they fall right back into their old habits. But what I like about this is that science is showing, like, because we can start to figure out genetically what are you inclined more to like, we can take that data and then create a deficit plan based on that so that you're still getting the foods that you like without feeling deprived. You know how much of it you're getting so that you can still take it in enough where you're basically filling that craving, and then you can carry on. Whereas if you're told this is the food that you should be eating and you're miserable with that, all you're doing is thinking about the foods that you can't eat, and then even when you have the smallest amount of that food, you feel like you failed, right? However, if you're looking at it more of like, no, these are the foods that you thrive off of physically and mentally, it's okay to eat them, we just have to eat them in the right amount of quantities, then it kind of changes the way that we're able to handle things. And you're gonna be much more successful in the long run and creating this more of a lifestyle habit versus a short-term habit, which is what most people have ended up doing over all these years, right? Blah, 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 blah. Where are we at? The American research team used the UK Biobank, which contains data for 500,000 people, to perform a phenome-wide association study that identified genes more strongly associated with diet than any other health or lifestyle factor. Blah, 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 not important. All right, this I do think is really, really important to talk about. Cole, assistant professor in the Department of Biomedical Informatics at the University of Colorado School of Medicine, said, the foods we choose to eat are largely influenced by environmental factors such as culture, socioeconomic status, and food accessibility. So in the past, it's always been really hard to figure out what is genetics, what are we, focused on more genetically or inclined to genetically, because it's really hard to pull apart. Am I eating this because it's part of my culture? Because of where I am economically, this is all I can get my hands on. And food accessibility. Where am I based in certain regions that I'm able to get food easily versus food that's might be easy for you to get, but not easy for me to get. And so they really broke down trying to separate between those three main parts, culture, socioeconomics, and food accessibility, and break it into the genetic side of things, which I think is pretty freaking cool. But I'm sure it was very, very hard and part of the long process. So yeah, in the new study, the research team applied computational methods to tease out the direct effects of genetic variants impacting diet and separating those from indirect effects, such as the ones that impact diabetes, or having diabetes requires a person to eat less sugar. The UK Biobank not only contains in-depth genetic information, but also detailed health and socioeconomic data, allowing researchers to test individual genetic variants for associations with thousands of traits and then eliminate indirect gene variants that were more strongly associated with other factors such as genetics. Because we know that there are some people that are just more prone to genetics. It is something that can be passed down from one person to the next. We also know that it can be based upon lifestyle choices of socioeconomic status. Unfortunately, the cheaper food is the one that is more processed, more filled with sugar, more filled with the hydrogenated fat, trans fatty acids, which increases our risk of diabetes in the long run. Analysis revealed around 300 genes directly associated with eating specific foods and just under 200 genes linked to dietary patterns which group various foods together, such as overall fish intake or food consumption. How cool is that? Okay, this is kind of where I'm going to end here, because then it's just kind of the conclusion. But how interesting is that there are 300 genes that are associated with just the food that we choose to eat. So if you line up a whole bunch of different foods in front of me and I'm more inclined to pick up one thing over another, is that because of environmental factors, the way that I've grown up? Is it because of my culture? Or is it just because my genetics are telling me that is the food that tastes really good on my taste buds? Go with that. And then there are 200 genes, well, a little bit less than 200 genes, that make you more prone to eating a specific food group, right? So if you're somebody who loves eating fruit or like eating berries, is that just, again, because as a kid you ate a ton of berries and you were introduced to it? Or is there a gene within your body that says, berries are really good, they work really well for your body, eat more berries? I am a big believer that more of our genetics and the food that we choose is most likely going to be the food that helps our bodies run most effectively. Whereas with culture, socioeconomic status, and food availability, those are more just aiming for the foods that we have access to, right? We're not always going to pick the good foods. That's the problem with the world today, because bad food is so accessible that that's what we tend to reach for. But if we're able to tap into the genes of what we prefer to eat, something tells me that those genes, those 500 genes, because the 300 genes that tell us the foods we like, the 200 genes that tell us the groups that we like, are going to give a peek into what our body runs best off of. So the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about with this is that there are a couple of specific genes, and I'm only going to talk about 3 genes here real fast, that are not associated with the type of food that we eat. It's that how our body processes certain food. So I find this stuff interesting. If you guys do as well, let me know and I will dive deeper into this. I would actually love to have Dr. Cole on this podcast to talk a little bit more in depth about this study that she did. So specific genes. There is a gene called, get ready for this, CYP1A2 gene, which is responsible for coffee metabolism. It codes for the CYP1A2 enzyme, which is responsible for coffee metabolism and the enzyme. A particular single nucleotide polymorphism in the gene is a major contributing factor to determining how quickly a person metabolizes coffee. So I actually did one of those food sensitivity tests years ago, which nowadays, like, research has come out, they're really not all that beneficial or accurate. But I've always been able to drink coffee. I can go to sleep pretty fast, even if I drink coffee in the evening. I'm not one that really gets the jitters too much, except if I drink coffee at a breakfast spot for some reason. I don't know why, like, cafes just have the strongest coffee, but homebrewed coffee or Starbucks coffee doesn't make me go crazy. And when I did that food sensitivity test, it actually did come by saying that I was somebody who metabolizes caffeine very quickly. So yeah, pretty cool. So what are you? Do you metabolize coffee fast, or does it sit with you for a while? Dan drinks a lot of coffee, but certain types of coffee, which I would like to do more research on, different types of caffeine perhaps, or different breakdowns of coffee beans, can really give him the jitters where he's like, oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack. But for the most part, I would say that he's a pretty fast metabolizer as well. The second gene that I found that I want to talk about was for sugar digestion, and it's the SI gene. The SI gene provides instructions for producing the enzyme sucrase isomaltase. Anything with a tase at the end means that it's an enzyme. Enzymes help to break down food or to help speed up different metabolic processes within the body. So there's a disease actually called congenital sucrase isomaltase deficiency that affects the individual's ability to digest certain sugars. So I thought that that was pretty interesting as well. So we do have a gene on how quickly and how effectively our body can break down carbohydrate. Carbohydrate, a fancy word for sugar. And then there is a hunger gene, which I don't think this comes off as any surprise, but I also have to remind myself sometimes that I read these kind of studies all the time. So for me, it's no surprise, but maybe this is new information to you, and I do want to make sure to spread the word. And if you have other follow-up questions, let me know. But there has been located a hunger gene, and it's the result of analysis revealed that children who showed a mutation in the KSR2 gene demonstrated an increased appetite, slower metabolism, lower heart rate, and severe insulin resistance compared to those with a normal version of the gene, which obviously means that they would most likely be set up for a thyroid issue or type 2 diabetes further on down the line, and that's the KSR2 gene. Basically, we like to think that our bodies are so unique and individualized, and we're our own person with our own self-thoughts, but our body is not that way. We are a machine running off of different genes and neural pathways with electrical impulses going off here and there, not to mention all of the foreign organisms that are in our gut as well, that has a huge impact not only on our digestion, but on our mental capacity as well. It's been proven that gut health has also been linked to depression, anxiety, all sorts of things. So yeah, we're really not that special, you guys. We're kind of just somehow going through this world with different personalities, yet the wiring within us is all the same. I find that super interesting. If you guys do as well, let me know down below. The other thing that I was thinking about when I was studying for this podcast, looking into it a little bit deeper and just kind of letting my mind wander, was I wonder if over the past few years, as processed food has increased, as our sugar intake has increased, are there starting to show any evolutionary changes or mutations in our genes where our genes are starting to change towards eating more sugar than maybe they did 100, 200 years ago. Now, obviously, mutations take a lot of time to spread through the majority of our bodies, right? That's not something that just happens overnight. It's kind of very, very rare, and it's a very slow-going process. But if humanity is able to live long enough, what will our genes look like in a couple of thousand years, 2,000 years, 50,000 years from now, because of the food choices that we've made as a culture through all this time? I mean, at the end of the day, we all try to eat as basic and like quote unquote paleo as we can, but we're not eating the way that even our grandparents did. So what changes are those going to have on the DNA level, which will then affect our genes that are showing up from day to day and making us decide on what to do and what choices to make with our nutrition? So yeah, I think that this is really promising. I think that this is super interesting. I would love to see how one of these days, if we're able to like prick our finger and it's going to say, these are the foods that you should eat in order to be the best athlete. These are the foods that you personally should eat to have the healthy pregnancy. These are the foods that you should eat if you want to gain some weight. Because as a kid, weight gain was a big issue to me. So maybe had I known genetically what my body thrived off of, it would have been a lot easier for my parents. And of course, if you want to lose weight, these are the foods that would work best for you and help you feel the happiest as you go through that dieting process. Whew, y'all, interesting stuff, right? Let me know your thoughts on all of this stuff. I am really loving this new change up to the podcast. If you are, please let me know. If you're not liking it, let me know that as well. If you want me to go back to just chit-chatting, talking about current events, talking about specific topics, let me know that. And then on Friday, though, I am still keeping that format, answering your questions, talking about a more specific exercise topic. But I would love to hear your thoughts on all this. And then, of course, remember, go check out fitwomensweekly.com, and better yet, sign up for Plan Smart, Eat Real. Go ahead and hold your spot today so that you can lock in that special price and let your friends know about it. Let's get them in there. And this is a capped process or program, so don't miss out on it. Join me. It's actually going to start the week after my 13th wedding anniversary. So it's going to be a fun way to kick off year number 14. I don't know why that made me think of it. It's not related at all. But in September, that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm going to be coming off a vacation at that time. So I'm excited. Whenever I do these kind of programs, whether it's something like my summer shred that we are in right now, or a Plan Smart, Eat Real coaching program, I go through the program with my clients because it helps with accountability, it helps with team morale, it helps keep you not only starting something, but actually finishing it. So I'm gonna love that little reset. I'm gonna look at it as a reset when I get back from vacation, and I am so ready. I cannot wait. September 25th, go to fitwomensweekly.com, find out more, and of course, If you're listening to this or watching this, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, leave a review, and subscribe. And make sure to share it, you guys. It would really mean the world. And of course, there are other ways to support Filmins Weekly, as easy as buying a little coffee to help with the content, or just liking posts, following me over on Instagram, and I'll have all that information down in the description. All right, guys, thank you so much. Bye.